What is up, y'all? It is Paris Tempit, Paris TTMPPED, TTMPPED, and today I am here with YukkoEx. Say what's up.
Hello, hi.
This is my first time collabing with another YouTuber. I'm very excited to even do this night, do this whole collab. I am here in Dunkin' Donuts, so promotion. But today we're going to be talking about gender envy and celebrity crushes growing up, because being trans is just confusing when you're young. When I was younger, I had a lot of different kind of crushes that were kind of making me realize I am highly confused and attracted to many individuals. What's your experience with that?
As young as I can remember, basically, I started idolizing women as though I wanted to grow up to be like them. Like, I was probably 4 or 5 years old, and I want to be like Sailor Moon and like Misty from Pokemon. And those are my role models in my very young years. How about you?
Well, see, when I was really young, I was watching Kim Possible, and I was like, okay, I really like Shigo's personality, and the matter, almost she was the control of her dynamic with that dude that she was working with. So I'm like, okay, I like Shigo, but then I liked Kim Possible, but almost attractive wise, I was attracted to her, confused on whether I liked her or wanted to be her. You know what I'm saying? Every time I'd watch a show, it would go from me liking one character to me liking the next, and not knowing whether I liked them or almost if I was looking up to them. It was really hard. It was really hard for me to distinguish the two.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I know my youngest years, I kind of just thought I was female until gender was more constructed in my head. But I definitely feel that as well. Kim Possible is actually one of my gender envies as a kid as well. But when I hit the age of I think it was probably around 8 and up, when people were oh, you're gonna date women and when you get older, I started getting very confused as to this feeling do I want to date this person or do I want to be this person? And that never really left.
No, I like that, because when I was around elementary time, I think Victorious had came out, and this is when I was okay, I like the whole cast. Beck was there, and I would have my friends complimenting Beck, and I'm oh, I want to be Beck. Why can't, almost trying to fit his style. I remember going to the mall and getting a flannel, trying to wear the khaki pants with the cool sneakers, trying to match his aesthetic, not even realizing and I was still thinking I have a crush on Beck, not realizing that I was almost molding myself to be like him over the as time was going on.
Do you feel that early impression of those people kind of planted seeds to who you become later in life?
Oh, definitely. Marceline from Adventure Time. I feel I'm a merge of so many different characters that I used to like. What about you?
100%. I feel like most people, no matter the walk of life, do that. But I definitely Avril Lavigne, tomboy, she was super tomboy and cool. Kim Possible, definitely a mix of the characters from when I was a kid. I think stuck with me as seeds, and unbeknownst to me, had affected who I'd become in my later years, even up until being an adult.
I like that. One thing that was weird though, before I knew, okay, I want to be a trans man, I want to, shift over to the other side, I had this point where I couldn't tell whether, I was bisexual, trying to be a bisexual woman, or a pansexual man. It was a very this really weird point, definitely with crushes wise, because I didn't know who I was supposed to like. I didn't know what was acceptable and what was, it was a really, it was one of those times where I couldn't tell whether whether it was a crush or, I don't know if that even makes any sense.
I mean, honestly, it kind of does make sense, because in this day and age, it's more known than ever, but even still, being trans is so it's still so under the radar or scrutinized that it's really hard to kind of explore these thoughts in a way that's comfortable when you're young, because either you don't understand them because people haven't told you about them, about the world of being trans, or it's scrutinized, so you're almost afraid of yourself. You're afraid of the inherent way you feel.
Exactly. Almost afraid of even, I get what you're saying, because even when I was younger, I would tell my friends, oh, I'm bisexual. We would all everyone had their crushes in school. And I would certain girls in my class, stuff like that, and I would hear how they would perceive me, oh, you're a girl and you like me. That's not that's not what's supposed to be happening. And I'll go, wait, whoa, like I wish, I'm trying to be this person off this character off this show, but they're still seeing me in this whole box, in this whole reality that's not even, who I am.
I 100% empathize with that. I lived in a very homophobic household, so I didn't have the opportunity to come out. That sounds very different. That sounds like when I was in high school, I didn't. But I was so closeted, it was brutal. Like, people kind of knew I was gay or something my entire life. But how did you end up navigating that? Did you find a way to, like, get through that in those years?
So I think I was very selective on who I told. It's one of those things where at my house, I didn't like anybody. If I had a girl come over, that was one of my friends, because my mom, she was really like heavy into church, and she can tell me getting shape-ups and, me kind of experimenting with my style and definitely watching Degrassi like heavily. I think she could tell that something was not clicking. But in school, I was a little bit more open with my curiosity, and I guess with me kind of expressing and kind of going after certain people and getting rejected and stuff like that, and kind of people tell me who I am, I was starting to understand that I'm definitely different than something's definitely not the same.
It would have influenced who you dated as well, right?
Definitely. I think I always kind of, a lot of my relationships were either I guess known as a lesbian relationship, or I would tell them eventually, like, hey, like, I think I'm going to be swapping sides. Like, do you feel like, did you go after your crushes in high school, or were you private about that?
So I did go after my crushes. I kind of like overcompensated in a lot of ways. Not in a way that was like ever like negative, but just in a way that was like, oh, I have to date a woman, otherwise people will think I'm gay type thing, right?
Yeah.
But the women I would date, they were always very, they had masculine traits, behaviors, and it was very common that my friends would be like, oh, you are the girlfriend of the relationship, and I would be like, yes, let's go. Obviously, I'd be like, no, dude, what? Not me, bro, never do what? But I'd be so happy when I heard that. Otherwise, yeah, I dated, and then there was this one chick I dated, so we were off and on for like 4 years, and she was probably more gender envy than anything now that I look back on it, which just sucks because there was a level of feelings for her, so it wasn't like, but I didn't know at the time that, I just like, she played World of Warcraft, and she was like, it's just, I think it was more gender envy than anything, because that early relationship, with that person who was with, that she influenced who I would become for the rest of my life. Like, I still say things that we would say in our relationship, like, dislike people. Like, it's, like, a term she used to use was, I dislike them immensely, as opposed to saying hate them. And, like, all these things I kind of picked up on, I kind of, like, subconsciously frame myself around my gender envy who I was dating, which is a very weird paradigm and almost sounds toxic, which sucks, but, it was just, yeah, it was just a weird situation.
Wow, no, but I understand that though. Like, almost like you were with your future self, almost like, well, a part of it, like, and at least an aspect of who you'd be, like, and I think even when I would date men, like when I was younger, I do agree that I was almost like, I was envious of them. Like it was very obvious that I would try to, like, even like, I was dating this one boy named Khalil when I was in like high school. I don't remember, maybe late middle school or early high school. I don't remember when, but we were dating, and I remember like I went in his phone one day, and there was so many girls he was texting, and instead of me being jealous, I was upset that I wasn't texting girls too. It's one of those things where I was starting to see how a man treats a woman, and realizing I'm gonna have to be the person being treated that way, which is it was almost like a little bit confusing for me, understanding like the role I was gonna have to play in the relationship, and like I was kind of understanding the role I wanted to play in the future. And I also had there was a stud girl, her name was Faith, and she was like, a stud, and like she would go around getting all these girls, and I was envious of her, thinking I had a crush on her. And then one day she kissed me, like she thought she knew I liked her, and she said, I had to tell you a secret. I'm like, what? And she bends over and kisses me right on my lip. I'm like, oh, and I knew she was going to do it. I was acting shocked. But in that moment, I realized I wouldn't want to date her. Like, I like how she looks. I like her swag. I like how she's able to, like, wear what she wants, say what she wants, and no one gives a fuck. But in that moment I realized, oh snap, like I don't think I like her, because I can't even picture us like being together. Like it was those things where I was really understanding through my crushes and like through those little attempts that, almost what I did and didn't want in a relationship, and who I didn't, not even like gender wise, but the role I wanted to play, in a relationship.
Absolutely, yeah. I completely 100% feel that. Like, I would like, I don't know if this is the same for you. So, because you dated a few, I don't know, not my business if you still date men or women or whatever, right? But when I was dating strictly women, I would like feel something for them for maybe like a week, 2 months. And then I would just fall out of it because the exact same thing. I'd be like, I don't want to date this person. I want to be the one, going through these changes in high school, like going through that type of puberty. I want to be the one looking forward to being pregnant. Like all that stuff was always in the back of my mind, and it made it like impossible to stay connected to my relationships.
Wow, I really do. That's like makes so much sense. Like almost like how I used to see lesbian relationships. Like how you grow up and you remain the same. And I was watching all these lesbian YouTubers like that were masculine, and it was making me realize, oh wait, there's gonna be a point where I don't continue to grow. Like I won't be able to get a mustache. I won't be able to like have a deeper voice. Like I'll just be a woman in society that's like a masculine woman. Like almost making me realize, like through relationships and through other people, like this, something has to change. I want to change. I'm transitioning one day.
Yeah, for sure. Did you know about transitioning in those earlier years? Like, when did you find out?
Actually, she might honestly go by, like, she might be non-binary, like they, them, she, them. It doesn't really matter. But at the time, she went around telling everybody, like, we were young too, like, I'm a boy, I'm a boy, I'm a boy. And I'm like, that's not possible. You can't be a boy. Like, that's not. And when she said that, though, I'm over here, ears are getting open, because around this time, my mom had cut my hair and people were starting to mistake me as a boy, and I liked it. So I'm hearing her say this, I'm a boy, I'm a boy, I'm a boy. And I'm like, that's not, you can't do that. You can't just be a boy. And she goes, yes, I am. So the rest of camp, I respected her, now, like I said, after a while, she went back into, being who she wants to be, whatever, doesn't really matter. But at that time, she preferred, he, him pronouns. And I was like, okay, well, you'll be he, him pronouns. And as I was seeing her become confident, I was, on the low going, I wish I could be a boy for Halloween. Like, what would it be like if I was able to kind of fall into that? And I didn't understand transitioning, being able to be a man. But I knew that I was very curious on why my journey had to stop and everyone else was kind of going forward in their curiosity.
No, that's totally understandable. Did you end up ever doing that for, okay, so for Halloween, did you ever dress as a boy, and did you do it as one of your gender envies?
So there was this one Halloween where I gave it a shot, and this is when I knew something was really fucked up, because I was afraid. So I put on the outfit that I thought was masculine. It was like a flannel with my baggy jeans and like some like white Air Forces. And my brother's girlfriend, who was older, she lived in the house with us. So she's like, oh, come down, let me see your Halloween costume. And now I'm freaking out because I'm like, oh my gosh, like she's about to see me dressed like a boy. So I go down the steps and I'm like hiding from the camera, I'm hiding from my mom. So I did it, but I was so afraid to go out into the public and for the public eye to see. And around this time, me and my sister would do these like male photo shoots of me posing like I don't even know what the hell was going on. But like, still at this time I was too afraid to show people that side of myself outwardly. So I was technically for Halloween, but not outwardly. What about you? Did you ever try to dress as your envy before you kind of gave into going outside of the binary and being your true self? Like, how did you ever kind of experiment?
So I did, but it was always kind of closeted because my brother, I lived in a very homophobic household. And so there was part of like, oh, I don't want to get bullied. But then there was also this part that was afraid. Because like I was like, yeah, I want to dress as my gender envy for Halloween. I want to be Misty. I want to be Kim Possible. But what if, like, I don't like the way I look? So I was more afraid than anything. Even though when I was super young, if I had long hair, I'd be mistaken as a girl. So I should have had the confidence, and I wish I did. But it was like this weird paradigm,
No, I really, really do get you there. It's almost like being afraid of yourself, and then of course, like almost seeing yourself through other people's lens, like understanding how you may be perceived, even if outside of, unfortunately your family, you may have been seen as yourself that day, but it's just like not even able to give yourself a chance because that fear, it's real, and it's human.
Yeah.
It's human. Would you say that? Did you have a relationship where you were dating them and you told them how you felt and then about your actual true self, or you never? It was almost like you dated people like closeted and then you kind of came out and now you dated separately.
I think the closest I had ever gotten, I wouldn't be able to quote myself verbatim, but I know that I was dating, so I dated this individual in high school, and they actually transitioned later in life around the same time I did. Without any communication, we get a hold of each other over Facebook or after many years. And I'm like, hey, I'm trans femme. They're like, hey, I'm trans masc. I'm like, holy fuck, because we dated. And the closest we would have gotten would be, I would have been very close to telling them. But I don't think we ever came out and said it because where I lived, transitioning wasn't even a known thing. Like, it was just something that was completely unheard of. So any form of, saying I wish I was a girl would never really go to the level of saying, hey, I want to transition, because we didn't even know it could be we didn't know it was a thing.
Wow. So like there was almost like, well, that's amazing to say, because you're almost saying at the time there wasn't even a version of yourself that you could imagine.
Yeah, literally, we didn't know that it existed, both of us. So we kind of just were awkwardly stumbling through life, matching up conveniently, very, very nicely with each other. But yeah, if only we did, it would have been amazing.
No, that's beautiful though, because when I was in high school, I dated this one girl. A lot of my relationship, I feel like after high school, I kind of dated, but now I kind of dated as the person I am. But in high school, it was kind of that, like, a lot of experimenting, and I had when I started dating her, I was like, okay, I'm a girl, like, but I did tell her, like, dating me would be what I said, it would be different than dating most girls, whatever the fuck that meant. And so we were dating, and as time went on, I told her, like, hey, I think I'm trans. I kind of had the vocabulary. I was already binging Degrassi and shit. And so she allowed me to kind of experiment with myself, be able to wear different stuff and try different stuff out. And she didn't judge me. And even now, like, she's still, I think she identifies as pansexual now, because I made her realize, I like a person for their soul rather than what they have and all that jazz, which was, beautiful to see that, I could be wanted outside of my body. But yeah, kind of dating her allowed me to have that time, because, other people would tell me, you can't do this, like, I want a woman, or you can't do this, my parents, but she even told her mom, like, her house was like my safe haven at one point. Even though they weren't understanding, they accepted me and just kind of let it be, which was a blessing at the time that I didn't even know I had.
That's amazing.
Yeah, no, it really, even just saying, I didn't even think about this for a while. Me and her don't even talk, but it's just like, I guess, so would you say, like, your person at the time was that person that held your hand and allowed you to be, like, almost like that family inside a family, or you feel like you never had that?
As far as the gender diversity side goes, no. I do relate with that on a different subject with my best friend's family, kind of like an adopted mother situation. But when I came out, I kind of jumped into the pool head first on the cool end. It was like I knew I would potentially lose my entire life, family, etc., etc. But when I found out what transitioning was, literally, okay, this is probably irrelevant to the gender envy thing, but I'll explain it really.
We in a conversation. They in it. They listening.
Okay, for sure. Okay, so I was in VR chat. And I was lurking in a room. It's a room called Murder, and you wait in the lobby every, like, 10 minutes to get in, then you have to, like, figure out who's the murderer, right? As I'm in the lobby, I'm hearing about this transitioning thing, and I'm kind of listening in like a little bit of a creepo. And when I found out what it was, I got off the VR chat, I went on the computer, I searched it up, and I was calling clinics literally the next day. Like, I called everywhere. Like, within a month and a half to 2 months at most, I had my prescription because of how aggressively. No, not joking. Here in Canada, it's pretty easy, but I literally called every clinic, every family doctor. I called everywhere, and I got into this backdoor policy for trans women that was about 3 hours away from my house, and she hooked me up with the consultation, and then I got it, and I lost a lot in life. but I also came out so much better for it. Like, oh my god, this so much better for it.
Wow, that's beautiful. No, that's amazing though. Like I do get you on that, calling everybody till you get what you want.
Yeah, for sure.
Amazing,
But
though.
yeah, to answer the question, I didn't really have anybody. So the last 5 years, oh, you know what I did? I ended up meeting a boyfriend, my first boyfriend in World of Warcraft, and he bared with me through the awkward stages, the cringy stages, and he was like, without a doubt, the most impactful person in my life, to the point where I still have symbology of him in my like designed room. Fictionally, yeah. Yeah, he really made me who I am today. So I did, long story short, but not right away. Yeah.
Oh, hold on 1 second. Can I get some water? Yeah. I mean, what y'all had? Yes, please. Thank you. I just got a hot chocolate.
Nice.
Wow. But that's actually, I found that beautiful. Almost like, I feel like the universe sometimes, I mean, I'm weirdly spiritual, so I always say sometimes we need to be sent someone to give us permission. You know, because sometimes, you know, it always comes eventually, but almost like giving that okay, like you can experiment, you can figure out who you are, like be yourself, you don't gotta hide yourself.
I would have had that then in the end, yeah.
Medium. Thank you. I like that. That's amazing. And so let's go back to the envy. Do you think that today's YukkoEx, are you who you wanted to be? If you went to your younger self and, opened a door for her and was like, hi, like, what would you, like, are you who you want to be?
Yes.
Oh, that's
absolutely
beautiful. Oh man, that's beautiful. I feel the same. I mean, of course, like I have a lot more growing to do, but in terms of my transition and like I crush with confidence. I know who I want. Like, I really do understand like that confusion, that envy, that I want to be. Hold on 1 second. Thank you so much.
So the person, okay, I'm gonna make a spitball guess. Okay, so the person you are would be like 10% the person you wanted to be, and 90% the person that kind of surprised you. And being that 90% was like who you really are, and that was who you want to be ultimately in the end. And that 10% was kind of like the leading force to finding who you are.
Oh, are you asking or telling?
I'm asking. I'm kind of asking. Yeah, it was more of a question. Sorry.
That's a great question. I feel like even as you asked it, I guess that's because when I was younger, I had an idea of who I wanted to be. I would look at a lot of men and I would be upset. Oh, I want to be tall. I want to be beautiful. I want to get, I feel like I had, basically the stereotypic man. But the person I am today, my open mind, my experiences, like, I'm way more than I thought I would ever be, for sure. Like, sometimes I surprise myself, even with I feel like there's some times where I'm put in these positions where I have to choose A or B. And my decisions now are completely different because who I am is not a question anymore. Because before it would always just be like a matter of, who I am would determine what I did, and it sucked. But what about you,
So, yeah, 100%. I thought of a kind of cringy analogy for it. So, it's kind of like, okay, so in snowstorms, they have pylons with like a red light to guide you, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't really see like past like 10 feet.
Okay.
So it's like, what if like we were to equate gender envies as the pylons leading to like the person?
Oh, I like no, but
wanted
that's
to
good.
be, but didn't see it.
No, that's
Yeah.
good. Almost like that shining light, like that, because you need to see who you are to know who you are sometimes, Like,
Yeah, 100%.
even with people who are, I always tell people on the channel, like, this goes for cis people as well. Like, a lot of the times, cis people grow up in this box, not realizing, like, just because you don't change your gender doesn't mean there's so much beyond it. There's so much you can wear. There's so many outfits. There's so much expression in this world. And sometimes you need to see that expression outwardly and go, they look good in that. Let me try to put that on.
Yeah, for sure.
That's amazing, actually. Wow.
I'm glad you like it, yeah.
What would you say to the younger crowd who are having this gender envy and comparing, almost comparing themselves and, going, I want to be this person one day, what would you say?
I would say don't take the best aspects of the people you look up to, but don't try to be them. But also, don't be oh, sorry. That was my... Sorry about the sound effect in the background. That was a G-Subs thing. That totally ruined this.
No, that was... No, not that. It was getting so good. You gotta put, like, monumental music.
Yeah. Okay, so... don't be ashamed of the little voice in your head that's telling you who you should be, but also know that it's a guide, not a law. Like, when you look up to characters, it's not that you want to be that person. Deep down inside, there's really a you that's waiting, and part of that character is the stepping stone to that.
Wow, I like that. Almost like you have to just follow the flow. You have to listen to yourself. Trust that voice. I like that. Don't let it get in your head.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I feel like gender envy is like it comes paired with shame more often than not, and wrongfully so, I think.
Ooh, that is so. And so do you? That's kind of tangent, but do you think that cis men go through the same gender envy, like? Because I mean, even since I've transitioned, and this can go for trans women and cis women at the same time, like, I feel like there's a lot of times where I'll go to the gym and, like, I'll be, they won't know I'm trans. They'll compare themselves, and they'll put this comparison, and I think, like, when you are transitioning, it's alike rather than, I don't know if the question's making any sense, but almost like, do you feel like the cis community may be going through this in silence?
I do. I think the benefit of being trans is you're forced to know who you are, because in society it's a lot easier to blend in, and when you're not trans, it's a lot easier to fall into the traps of being someone that you were told to be. Whereas when you're trans, you're kind of inherently going to betray those expectations anyway, so you're left out in the cold trying to figure out everything for yourself, whereas everyone else, they can be comfortable, and sometimes being comfortable can lead to the most uncomfortable life, because you don't get that opportunity to see, hey, I know something's wrong, and now I need to address it.
Wow, that's like so well said. Because I do know, like, I've seen these couples where, in reality, like, I do believe that they're dating who they want to date. But then I know this one couple. I think they're in a lavender relationship. That's none of my business. But, like, he, like, is very expressive with his sexuality. But when he's around his friends, he falls back into that over masculinity. Like, he hides that, he began his toes painted. Like, he be hiding parts of himself. And I'm like, I can only imagine, like, that's, like, scary, only because a lot of people are willing to share it with their partners. But picture the ones that aren't willing to share that curiosity and those questions with their partner, going, hey, maybe I want to go with y'all. And this doesn't have to be anything that's gay, it can just be me wanting to express myself. And that's, like, so interesting. Wow. Because we are forced to be ourselves. We have no other choice. We got to know what we want. We got to know who we are. Like,
absolutely,
even if we change our mind, we have to almost sadly explain ourselves sometimes so that we can be properly understood and properly received.
Yeah, no, everything you said is solid too. Like, all of that is extremely true. And the fact that, like, that reference to the guy that was, like, wanting to do his nails and stuff and then going out and being miserable around his friends, it's such a common fallacy, right?
For real. Wow.
Yeah.
That's and I think it's reminded me of the privilege. I mean, yes, being trans has so many, Lord, the downfalls and the setbacks can be big, but the freedom, once you kind of have that acceptance and that support system, can be breathtaking. It can be such a relief.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I were to make a guess, and if I were to look at, like, percentages, I would say a higher percentage of trans people live more as their selves in a way that makes them happy than cis people. And that's nothing to disparage cis people. Again, it just goes back to, we had these gender envies when we were a kid. We had these weird thoughts, and we had to eventually face them, right?
Exactly. I completely get you there. Almost like, and I said the same. Like, I'm like, nothing's wrong with being cis, and like, not, but I do feel like, that freedom and that acceptance is it's a journey. It's like this like extra step that I wish everyone else took, almost realizing, who do you look up to in private? Who's that one person that you compare yourself to in private? That you wish you could have been. We all want to be that one kid, the one with the coolest clothes, nice fashion, nice skin, yada, it doesn't matter. But, that those questions really help to answer who, not even really who, because, like you said it earlier, not really being them, but knowing what pieces of yourself you want to embody, and better understand.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, I guess to answer the ultimate question, I think that was proposed before this tangent we went on is, yeah, I think you're right. Like, people do have gender envy, might not be the term, but everyone has it, in the end.
Euphoria had me real confused. Euphoria had me confused.
Oh, Euphoria! Okay. When you said Euphoria, I haven't actually ever watched that show, so I was a bit confused. But that's my bad.
No. So you never seen Euphoria?
No, I haven't.
I mean, it's not for everybody. I feel like it's one of those shows where I watched it twice in its time. Would I watch it again now? Probably not, because they're all like 16-year-olds playing druggies. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I do believe there's a population doing that, but hey. But so yeah, it's a good show for its it talks a lot about, wanting people that are LGBT plus and being in the closet, and of course facing drugs and stuff like that, but outside of that, just finding self through everyone else, and having that, like, I think one of the characters, his dad on the low had been cheating on his mom with many different people. His dad was low-key pansexual.
Oh, okay.
And never talked about it, and it was one of those things where he became the man he should have been, very masculine, but when it showed a flashback of his childhood, he was way more expressive, way more curious, and he wasn't able to give into that, and he turned out, like, people don't realize that generational curses that can do sometimes, because you end up making your kid, you'll end up being, my dad did gymnastics when he was young, and then he grew up to be like hyper masculine, and I'm like, bro, like, nothing's like, I'm not trying to say gymnastics not masculine, but I'm like, you over here trying to put me in a box, and you was doing gymnastics your damn self, like, yeah. So it's just like, it's just very interesting how people don't even realize that they'll end up being that way if you don't give into that curiosity sometimes and figure out yourself.
Society just crushes their soul and turns them into a clone. It's sad, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, a clone is, wow, well said.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
No, unfortunately, Euphoria, I mean, the concept itself, it's so common that people fall into drugs and stuff in this community. It's really sad. I was an alcoholic myself at one point.
Hey, no shame, that's okay.
Yeah, for sure. I got past it. I'm sober now, thank God. But yeah,
I was an alcoholic, but I definitely think I was a weedaholic at one point, like very dependent on substance.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, that definitely falls into, needing to be self. Because when I first transitioned, I was the ideal man. Like, I was literally doing everything I thought I had to do. Like, I was in the gym heavy. My hair was, I was being very hyper mask. And over time, I wasn't even, at that point, I didn't have no trans, I didn't have a trans community. I didn't know no trans people. And starting out, I knew so many, I was talking to everybody, and I almost became closeted the more confident I was becoming. It was really interesting.
Really? That is actually an interesting paradigm, yeah.
It was really unfortunate, and I think it was because once I was able to date the girls that I wish I could have always been with, and once I was being seen by men from the way I always wanted to be seen, I didn't want to break the glasses. I didn't want to break the rose-petal glasses. I didn't want to change, the dynamic I was building, even though looking back, it wasn't even real. It was in my head.
In that unique situation where you've transitioned and now you're kind of going the opposite direction, where you're closeted as a trans man, did you find a gender envy during that situation to kind of repolarize you, or was it a journey you kind of went through naturally?
So I feel like once I was starting to pass more, a lot of the trans men, unfortunately, they were all kind of acting a certain kind of way. So the ones I was looking up to were being hyper mask. You know, so like it was almost like I was starting to believe this is like what this means. That being trans means being this man that I just built from the ground up. And you know, looking around, you know, I mean, all these trans men, they're all acting in boxes, and it wasn't really until I started to really like talk to them one on one, I was like, wait a minute, I'm way more expressive than this, and they were too. They were just being the ideal man. You know, sometimes I'm like, I don't really know who we're all being sometimes, because I feel like sometimes trans men, like, I don't know, I can't speak for trans women, but I know trans men tend to hyper masculine, even when they're trying to experiment, they hyper experiment, like they will hyper express, like, because it's almost like they don't know a good middle, which the middle would be just being whoever you are every day. You know, whether that's over expressive, you know, or, you know, one day you want to just be this. But I feel like, you know, definitely in that beginning, and there's still a lot that do it, but in that beginning stage, it's like this one version of a trans man everyone acts like. So it was just like, it was, and I was starting to be that, you know, fixating over my scars, hyper fixating over, you know, like it was like a lot of things I couldn't control that none of us can control, but all of us focused on. What about you?
100%. I mean, trans femme community does the same thing for sure. Yeah, it's like the awkward learning phase I think most people go through at the very beginning.
Yeah, but yeah, it needs to happen. I'm glad I did it, because now I had to realize I had to release myself from the clutches I was holding myself in.
Yeah, for sure. One extreme to the next and kind of find the balance eventually. That makes sense. Any last things about the gender envy thing?
No. Honestly, I feel like we touched on a lot, honestly, like just crushes.
This is honestly great.
This is a good conversation. Thank you for even having the patience, and y'all don't understand. I didn't bring no tripod, my mic, nothing. I'm here in Dunkin' Donuts, music in the back, like.
Not a problem at all. Honestly, it was a pleasure. I'm genuinely happy we did it. And I feel like sometimes, the imperfections of collabs can make them a bit more comfortable.
Yeah, it makes it more human. It makes people feel like they're also there for the first time, and like seeing how conversation is supposed to work. Whereas, you know, we're learning about each other, you know, and we're both still just people. It shouldn't be, you know, imperfections need to happen. Thank you so much for this. We definitely gotta do another video, because your mind is beautiful. We need so much more like-minded trans people in this world, and I'm happy that I'm starting to meet them. You know?
Likewise, I'd be happy to do that. Absolutely.
And follow her everywhere. I'm gonna put all her stuff in the description below. So much more stuff is happening, y'all. Thank y'all so much.
The last thing I have to say is subscribe to Paris TTMPPED.